Some people feel alive in crowded rooms, and some feel most alive behind a closed door. While the world calls them boring, antisocial, or lazy, psychology tells a very different story. People who love staying at home are often not avoiding life. They are protecting their peace. They see something most people miss. And once you understand the psychology behind this, you may never judge home people the same way again, because sometimes the strongest minds are the quietest ones. We all know someone like this, the friend who cancels plans at the last minute just to stay home, the person who would rather spend Friday night reading, watching movies, cooking, or simply sitting in silence than going to a loud party. Maybe that person is you, and maybe people around you have made you feel strange for it. They say things like, "You need to go out more. You're missing life. Why are you always at home?" But what if staying home is not a weakness? What if it actually reveals something powerful about the way your mind works? Psychology suggests that people who love staying at home often process emotions differently, value energy differently, and understand peace in a way many others never do. This is not just about being introverted. It goes deeper than that. It touches emotional intelligence, mental safety, self-awareness, and even childhood experiences. So before you call someone boring for loving solitude, stay till the end. Because what you're about to learn might explain your entire personality. 1. They protect their energy, not their social image. People who love staying at home are often highly aware of their emotional energy. For them, social interaction is not always exciting. It can be mentally expensive. Every conversation, every social expectation, every forced smile can feel like emotional work. Psychology calls this energy management. Some people recharge by being around others, while others recharge by being alone. Home becomes their recovery space. It is where they can remove the social mask and simply exist without performance. They are not trying to be rude, they are trying to stay emotionally balanced. Think about someone who spends all day at work talking, solving problems, and dealing with people. When they return home, silence feels like therapy. They are not lonely. They are finally breathing. Many highly sensitive and emotionally intelligent people behave this way. They know that if they keep giving energy without restoring it, they will burn out. The world often praises people who are always available, but sometimes wisdom is knowing when to disappear, because protecting your peace is not selfish. It is survival. 2. Home feels safe because their mind associates it with control. Here is something most people don't realize. Many people who love staying home are deeply connected to the feeling of control. Outside, life is unpredictable. People disappoint you, traffic frustrates you. Social situations create uncertainty, but at home things feel manageable. Psychologically, the brain craves safety, and safety often comes from predictability. At home, they choose the noise, the people, the timing, and the atmosphere. That sense of control reduces anxiety and creates emotional comfort. For someone who has experienced chaos in childhood, family conflict, emotional instability, or constant stress, home can become more than a place. It becomes protection. Even if they never talk about it, their nervous system remembers. For example, someone who grew up in a loud and emotionally unstable household may become an adult who values extreme quiet. Their peaceful room is not just a preference, it is healing. People think they are avoiding the world. Sometimes they are simply creating the peace they never had. And that says more about strength than weakness. So 3, they often have rich inner worlds. Some people need external excitement because silence feels empty. But people who love staying at home often have something different, a strong inner world. They think deeply, they reflect, they imagine, they analyze. Their mind is rarely quiet, even when their room is. Psychologists often connect this with introspection and high self-awareness. These people do not get bored easily because their attention is not dependent on constant stimulation. A simple evening at home can feel meaningful to them. Watching rain, writing thoughts, learning something new, or sitting with music can feel more powerful than a crowded event. Take someone who spends hours journaling or thinking about life decisions. To others, it looks like doing nothing. But internally, they are processing emotions, solving problems, and understanding themselves. They are not disconnected from life. They are deeply connected to the invisible parts of it. The loudest people are not always the deepest thinkers. Sometimes the quiet person in the corner is living 10 lives inside their mind. And that silence is not emptiness. It is intelligence. 4. They value depth more than entertainment. But the truth is even deeper. People who prefer staying home often care less about excitement and more about meaning. They do not want 10 shallow conversations. They want one real one. They do not chase attention. They chase understanding. Psychology shows that people with deeper emotional awareness often feel disconnected from surface-level social interactions. Small talk drains them. Forced social events feel exhausting. They crave authenticity, not activity. That is why many of them would rather spend time with one trusted person at home than attend a big gathering full of noise and performance. For example, someone may reject weekend party invitations, but happily spend 5 hours talking with a close friend over tea. It is not about being antisocial, it is about emotional quality. They are not avoiding people, they are avoiding emotional emptiness. Modern culture often confuses being busy with being fulfilled. But some people know better. They understand that peace with meaning is more valuable than noise without connection. And honestly, they may be right. 5. Staying home can be a sign of emotional healing. This is where things get interesting. Sometimes staying at home is not isolation, it is recovery. After heartbreak, betrayal, burnout, or emotional exhaustion, people naturally pull inward. Psychology calls this emotional retreat, a temporary step back to rebuild mental strength. The outside world becomes too loud when the inside world is already heavy. So they choose solitude. Not because they hate people, but because they need to hear themselves again. Imagine someone after a painful breakup. Friends may say, "You need to go out and forget it." But healing does not always happen in crowded places. Sometimes healing happens alone, late at night, in silence, with uncomfortable thoughts finally being faced. Home becomes the place where emotional wounds are processed. This period can look like loneliness from the outside, but internally, it may be the beginning of self-respect. The strongest comeback often starts in private. No audience, no applause, just one person deciding to rebuild. So never assume someone staying home is falling apart. They may actually be becoming stronger than ever. 6. They are less influenced by social validation. People who love staying at home are often less addicted to external approval. They do not always need to be seen to feel valuable. In a world obsessed with being visible, posting, attending, proving, they quietly choose something rare: internal validation. Psychology teaches that people with stronger self-definition depend less on social confirmation. They know who they are, even when no one is watching. That is powerful. For example, while others feel pressure to go out just for pictures, status, or fear of missing out, they ask a different question: do I actually want this? That single question changes everything. They are not controlled by trends as easily. They are more likely to make decisions based on emotional truth rather than social pressure. Of course, not everyone who stays home has mastered this, but many have. They understand that peace is more important than appearances. And the older you get, the more valuable that lesson becomes. Because real confidence is not being admired by everyone. It is being comfortable when nobody is looking. So 7, they observe more than they speak. Here is something people underestimate. Quiet people notice everything. Those who spend more time at home often develop strong observation skills. Because they speak less, they listen more. Because they are not constantly performing, they notice patterns others miss. Psychologically, this is linked to reflective awareness. They study tone, body language, energy shifts, and emotional inconsistencies. That is why many home-loving people are surprisingly good at reading people. They may not say much at a gathering, but they often understand the room better than the loudest person there. For example, they notice fake kindness, hidden tension, and unspoken sadness. While others focus on entertainment, they are reading emotional reality. This can make social spaces exhausting. When you notice too much, crowds become heavy. You stop enjoying performance because you keep seeing truth underneath it. That is why solitude feels cleaner, less noise, less pretending, more honesty. And sometimes the person who says the least understands the most. That silence is not awkwardness, it is awareness. 8. Home is where they meet their real self. At the deepest level, people who love staying at home often value self-connection. Away from noise, comparison, and social roles, they meet the person they actually are. That is not easy. Many people stay busy because silence forces confrontation. Who am I without distraction? What do I really want? What am I running from? Home creates space for those uncomfortable questions. And not everyone is brave enough to sit with them. Someone spending time alone may be discovering purpose, questioning old beliefs, or learning how to exist without constant external stimulation. That is not laziness. That is emotional maturity. Because the hardest relationship in life is the one you have with yourself. And many people avoid it forever. For those who learn to be alone without feeling empty, unlock something powerful: freedom. When your own company feels enough, the world loses its power to manipulate you. And that is a rare kind of peace. The deeper truth is this: humans are not all built to experience happiness the same way. Some people bloom in crowds, others bloom in quiet. Neither is wrong. But society often rewards visibility more than peace. We celebrate loud success and ignore silent stability. We praise people for being everywhere, but rarely for being emotionally at peace. People who love staying at home challenge that idea. They remind us that happiness is not always exciting. Sometimes happiness is simple: clean sheets, a quiet room, a book, a late-night thought, a safe space where you do not have to pretend. And maybe the reason some people protect that so fiercely is because they know how hard peace is to find. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you gone somewhere you did not want to go just to avoid being judged? How many times have you said yes when your mind was begging for rest? How often have you confused being surrounded by people with actually feeling connected? Maybe your desire to stay home was never laziness. Maybe it was your soul asking for honesty. Maybe your mind was trying to protect you. Maybe your peace was speaking, and you kept calling it weakness. There is something powerful about choosing yourself in a world that constantly asks you to perform. And sometimes, healing begins the moment you stop apologizing for needing space. Not everyone will understand that, but not everyone is meant to. So the next time someone says, "Why do you stay home so much?" remember this. Some people escape into the world, and some people return to themselves. Loving home does not mean you are afraid of life. Sometimes it means you finally understand what matters: peace, clarity, energy, truth, and the courage to choose what genuinely makes you feel alive. Because the goal of life is not to be everywhere, it is to be where your mind feels free. And for some people, that place is home.